"We'll deal with this at home," Mom whispered, pressing a bag of frozen peas against my swollen arm. "Marcus didn't mean it. You know how he gets when he's stressed." I sat at our kitchen table, trying to steady my breathing through the waves of pain. My name is Olivia Parker, and at 24, I just experienced my brother's worst outburst yet. The metal baseball bat he'd swung at me during his rage still lay in the hallway, a silent reminder of how quickly things had escalated. "Mom, I think it's broken," I managed to say, wincing as I tried to move my fingers. "I need to go to the hospital." "No hospitals," she snapped, her voice sharp but her eyes pleading. "Your father's campaign for city council is in its final weeks. We can't have any incidents becoming public knowledge." Of course. The campaign. Everything in our family revolved around maintaining the perfect image for my father's political aspirations. Marcus's violent temper had been carefully hidden behind closed doors for years, explained away as high spirits or boys being boys. "Just take some painkillers and rest," Mom continued, already pulling out her phone. "I'll call Susan at the pharmacy. She can get us something stronger without questions." I wanted to argue, to demand proper medical care, but years of conditioning kept me quiet. Besides, the throbbing in my arm was making it hard to think clearly. The next morning, I dragged myself to work at the local library. My arm was a mottled purple, and I could barely move it, but calling in sick would raise questions. I'd gotten good at wearing long sleeves and making excuses. "Olivia?" My boss, Mrs. Thompson, caught me restocking shelves one-handed. "Are you all right? You're pale as a ghost." "I'm fine," I said automatically, the familiar lie tasting bitter. "Just tired." She frowned, clearly unconvinced. "You're favoring your right arm. Did something happen?" "No, really, The room suddenly tilted, and the books in my left hand clattered to the floor. The last thing I heard was Mrs. Thompson calling my name as darkness crept in from the edges of my vision. I woke to the sound of sirens and unfamiliar voices. An EMT was leaning over me, her kind face focused as she checked my vitals. "Hi there," she said, noticing my eyes open. "I'm Maya. Can you tell me what happened?" Before I could answer, my mother burst through the library doors, her face a mask of controlled panic. "I'm her mother," she announced, rushing to my side. "There's been a misunderstanding. We can handle this at home." Maya's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. She'd seen this before. "Ma'am, your daughter lost consciousness. We need to check her for injuries." "She's fine, just tired from studying late." "Olivia, tell them." But Maya was already gently rolling up my sleeve, revealing the violent bruising underneath. Her sharp intake of breath made my mother step forward. "She fell," Mom said quickly. "She's always been clumsy." Maya looked directly at me, her voice soft but firm. "This isn't from a fall. These marks are consistent with impact from a blunt object. There's clear defensive bruising." My mother's face hardened. "You don't understand. Our family, your family," Maya cut in, still looking at me, "doesn't have the right to hurt you, and I'm mandated by law to report suspected abuse." For the first time in years, someone was seeing through the carefully constructed facade. Someone was offering me a way out. "Don't you dare," my mother hissed, but her voice sounded distant as Maya helped me onto the stretcher. "You're safe now," Maya whispered as they loaded me into the ambulance. "You don't have to protect them anymore." As the doors closed on my mother's desperate face, I felt something inside me break free. The secret I carried for so long was finally coming to light, and despite the pain and fear, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The ambulance pulled away from the library, carrying me toward more than just medical help. It was carrying me toward freedom. The hospital corridor buzzed with activity, but I felt strangely calm as Maya wheeled me into the emergency room. The fear that had been my constant companion for years was giving way to something else. Determination. "Multiple contusions, possible fracture of the right radius," Maya reported to the attending physician, Dr. Carter. "Patient lost consciousness at work. Bruising pattern suggests repeated trauma." My mother's voice cut through the medical terminology. "I demand to be present during the examination. She's my daughter." Dr. Carter, a tall woman with steel-gray hair, fixed my mother with an unwavering stare. "Ma'am, your daughter is 24. She has the right to be examined privately. Please wait outside." For once, my mother's carefully crafted composure cracked. "Olivia, remember what we discussed. Think about your father's campaign." "Mrs. Parker," Maya stepped in, her voice firm. Either wait in the waiting room voluntarily or security will escort you. After my mother's reluctant departure, Dr. Carter began her examination. Each touch, each question, peeled back layers of secrets I'd kept buried. How long has this been happening, Olivia? I stared at the ceiling, fighting back tears. Marcus started getting violent when he was 14. I was 12. At first it was just pushing, throwing things. Mom said he was going through a phase. The doctor's pen paused over her chart. And your parents never sought help. They said it would ruin our family's reputation. Dad's political career. I trailed off, realizing how hollow the excuses sounded. The x-rays show this isn't your first broken bone, Dr. Carter said gently. There are old fractures that didn't heal properly. I nodded, remembering each incident. 3 years ago, he pushed me down the stairs. Mom said I tripped. Last year, it was my ribs. They said I fell off my bike. Maya, who had stayed nearby, exchanged glances with Dr. Carter. We need to document everything, she said. Photos, statements, medical history. The police will want to build a complete case. Police? My heart raced. No, I can't. Olivia. Maya sat beside my bed, her expression serious. Your brother could have killed you. That arm injury, a few inches higher, and that bat could have struck your head. This isn't about your father's campaign anymore. This is about your life. As if on cue, my phone lit up with messages from Marcus. Mom's freaking out. Why are you doing this to our family? You better keep your mouth shut. If you ruin Dad's campaign, you'll regret it. I showed the messages to Maya, who immediately called the police officer stationed outside my room. Add witness intimidation to the report, she said, her face grim. The next few hours passed in a blur of police statements, photographs, and medical procedures. My arm was indeed broken, requiring surgery to set properly, but it was the psychological evaluation that hit hardest. You're exhibiting classic signs of long-term trauma, the psychiatrist explained. The minimization of abuse, the protective behavior toward your abusers. These are survival mechanisms you developed. Outside my room, I could hear my father's authoritative voice arriving, no doubt ready to contain the situation. But this time, Maya and Dr. Carter stood like guardians at my door, refusing to let my parents take control of the narrative. Your brother has been arrested, Maya informed me after conferring with the police. They found evidence of steroids in his room, which might explain some of his rage issues. But it doesn't excuse anything. I closed my eyes, remembering the little brother who used to protect me from schoolyard bullies. Somewhere along the way, he'd become the very thing he once fought against. What happens now? I asked, my voice small but steady. Maya squeezed my hand. Now you heal, both your body and your spirit, and we make sure this never happens again. As I drifted off under the influence of pain medication, I heard Maya confronting my parents in the hallway. Your daughter could have died, all because you valued your reputation over her safety. Well, guess what? Now everyone's going to know exactly what kind of family you really are. For the first time in years, I fell asleep without fear, knowing I wasn't alone in this fight anymore. 6 months later, I stood outside the courthouse, taking deep breaths of the crisp autumn air. The hearing had just ended, and for once, the truth had prevailed over my family's carefully crafted lies. Marcus had pleaded guilty to assault charges, accepting a deal that included mandatory anger management, therapy, and rehabilitation for steroid abuse. My parents sat through the proceedings with frozen faces, watching their perfect family image crumble under the weight of evidence. Maya stood beside me, no longer in her EMT uniform, but still radiating the same protective energy that had saved me that day in the library. You did it, she said, smiling. How does it feel? Surreal, I admitted. For so long, keeping their secrets felt like breathing. I didn't know who I was without them. The media coverage of my father's family values candidate hiding years of domestic violence had ended his political career. The irony wasn't lost on me. His desperate attempts to preserve his reputation had ultimately destroyed it. My mother approached as Maya excused herself, giving us space. Mom looked older now, the strain of the past months etched into her face. Olivia, she began, her voice wavering. I know you think we failed you. You did fail me, I cut in, my voice firm but not angry. Every time you chose silence over my safety, every time you prioritized appearances over getting Marcus the help he needed. You failed both of us. She flinched at my words. We thought we were protecting the family. No, Mom. You were protecting your lifestyle, your social standing, Dad's career. A real family protects each other from harm, not from consequences. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Can we ever fix this? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the formidable society woman who'd silenced me for years, but a mother who'd lost her way so gradually she hadn't noticed until it was too late. Maybe, I said softly, but not until you and Dad accept what you did wrong. Real healing can't start with more lies. After she left, Mrs. Thompson from the library arrived, hugging me tightly. She'd been a constant support, offering me my job back and testifying about the day she found me. Your desk is still waiting for you, she said warmly, whenever you're ready. I'd already started back part-time, finding solace among the books and quiet spaces that had always been my refuge. The library patrons who'd witnessed my collapse had become a kind of protective community, their gentle concern healing in its own way. Maya joined us, her shift starting soon. Since that day in the ambulance, she'd become more than just the EMT who saved me. She was the friend who showed me what real family could be. Speaking of work, she said, have you told them about your acceptance? I smiled, pulling out the letter I'd received yesterday. During my recovery, I'd applied to paramedic training inspired by Maya's intervention in my life. I start next month, I announced. I want to be there for someone else, the way you were there for me. Mrs. Thompson beamed with pride, and Maya wrapped an arm around my shoulders. You've always been strong, Olivia, Maya said. You just needed someone to remind you of it. Later that evening, I visited Marcus in the rehabilitation facility. Our relationship was complicated now, fragile as newly healed bones, but we were both trying to rebuild something healthier from the ruins of our past. I'm sorry, he said, as he did every time I visited. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I know, I replied. That's why I'm here, because you're finally doing the work to change. He nodded, understanding the implicit warning. My forgiveness was conditional on his continued commitment to treatment. As I drove home to my new apartment, away from the suffocating perfection of our family home, I thought about how far I'd come. The broken arm had healed stronger than before. The nightmares were less frequent. The fear of speaking up had been replaced by a quiet confidence in my own voice. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Proud of you, partner. Tomorrow's EMT class is going to be amazing. I smiled, thinking of the future I was building. It wasn't the one my parents had planned for me, carefully curated for public consumption. It was better. It was real, honest, and mine. The truth had cost me my family's version of perfection, but it had given me something far more valuable. Freedom to be myself, scars and all. And that was worth everything.